When amateur scientist Thomas stumbled upon the long-lost treasure, his heart raced with disbelief. The discovery felt unreal, like something out of a dream. For years, Thomas had pursued the extraordinary, and now he had found it. If the world knew what he had uncovered, it would make him the celebrated scientist he always aspired to be. But not everyone shared his excitement. His colleagues, upon hearing about the discovery, were filled with unease. The object he described was no ordinary find, and whispers of curses and misfortune followed its legend. "You should leave it alone," one warned. "There's a reason these things stay buried." But Thomas was not one to heed caution. He felt destined to reveal the truth, no matter the cost. Before we dive deeper into this thrilling adventure, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support more stories like this one. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter of Thomas's journey. The story that had consumed Thomas for years revolved around a missing airplane. Some dismissed it as a mere children's tale, but Thomas had always believed there was something more to it. Now, as he stared at the wreckage resting deep beneath the waves, his belief was vindicated. The airplane was weathered by decades underwater, its surface corroded, its windows opaque with grime. Thomas swam around the wreck, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. He needed to get inside. A physical artifact, a photograph, something tangible was essential to prove what he had found. But the wreck was impenetrable. The windows, though cracked, were too sturdy to break, and there was no other visible entrance. Thomas's air tank beeped urgently, signaling that his time was running out. Frustrated, he began his ascent to the surface. Then he heard it, a faint, rhythmic sound. Knock, knock. Thomas froze mid-kick, staring back at the airplane. The sound was unmistakable. Someone or something was knocking from inside. His mind raced. "It's impossible," he whispered to himself. The airplane had been underwater for decades. How could anyone survive? Shaking off his fear, Thomas resurfaced and clambered onto his boat. His thoughts were a storm of confusion and determination. He had to know what was inside that airplane. As he set course for the nearest town to restock his supplies, the weather began to turn. The sky darkened, and the waves grew restless. The boat rocked violently as the wind picked up speed. Thomas clenched the wheel, trying to keep control, but the storm was relentless. Suddenly, a massive wave crashed into the side of the boat, sending Thomas flying. He hit the water hard, the salty spray stinging his eyes. As he surfaced, gasping for air, he saw his boat capsizing, its hull disappearing beneath the waves. Debris floated around him, and Thomas grabbed hold of a wooden plank. He clung to it desperately as the storm tossed him like a rag doll. Hours passed, the storm subsided, and exhaustion overtook him. When Thomas awoke, the first thing he saw was the clear blue sky. Then he noticed the two fishermen leaning over him, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. They had spotted him drifting and pulled him aboard their small vessel. The fishermen took Thomas to their village, a secluded, eerie settlement that seemed untouched by modernity. As he stumbled through its cobblestone streets, Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The villagers watched him with cold, wary eyes, whispering among themselves as he passed. Desperate for help, Thomas found his way to a dimly lit bar. The bartender, a stout woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, offered him food, drink, and a room for a price. Rumors of Thomas's find had already spread, and the villagers assumed he carried treasure. As Thomas shared his story with the patrons, they laughed at him, calling him delusional. Only one man didn't join in the mockery, a wiry figure sitting in the shadowy corner of the room. After everyone else had left, the man approached. "I believe you," he said, "and I can help." The man introduced himself as Andy, the town eccentric. His reputation as a conspiracy theorist and believer in urban legends preceded him. Andy spoke of a curse tied to the airplane, recounting a tale of a treasure hunter who had stolen a sacred artifact and vanished. Thomas was skeptical but desperate. He agreed to let Andy join him on his next expedition, though he remained wary of the strange man's motives. That night, sleep eluded Thomas. The memory of the knocking sound haunted him, and his curiosity burned brighter than ever. Hoping for answers, he snuck out to the village library. The library was a relic of a bygone era, its shelves lined with dusty tomes. Thomas combed through the books, searching for anything that might shed light on the airplane's history. After hours of searching, he found an ancient text. The worn pages described a cursed artifact eerily similar to what Andy had mentioned. As he read, Thomas felt a prickle on the back of his neck. He turned to see a shadowy figure watching him from the far end of the library. His pulse pulse quickened. Was this the same person who had followed him earlier? Thomas bolted, clutching the book. He fled through the streets, ducking into alleys to evade his pursuer. Finally, he returned to the safety of his room, though sleep was still beyond him. The next morning, Thomas and Andy set out to find the wreckage. The storm had displaced them, and Thomas had lost the exact coordinates during the capsizing of his boat. After hours of searching, they finally spotted the ghostly silhouette of the airplane resting on the ocean floor. With fresh gear, the two men descended into the depths. The wreck was eerily still, its presence both mesmerizing and foreboding. Thomas and Andy worked together to smash the airplane's window, finally gaining access to its interior. What they found inside left them speechless. The remains of a mummy lay wrapped in decaying linens, its face obscured by centuries of wear. But the true marvel was what the mummy cradled in its arms, a diamond of extraordinary size and brilliance. The gem seemed almost alive, its facets shimmering unnaturally even in the dim underwater light. Andy's wild tales had been true after all. It took hours to haul their find to the surface. The diamond's weight made the task grueling, but neither man was willing to give up. When they finally loaded it onto their boat, they stared at it in awe. Over the following months, news of their discovery spread like wildfire. The diamond was auctioned off for an astounding $54 million, making Thomas and Andy fabulously wealthy. But wealth could not erase the memories of that cursed wreck. Late at night, when the world was silent, Thomas swore he could still hear the faint sound of knocking, and sometimes he wondered if he should have left the airplane undisturbed.